Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Doug, and this is Leaving the Dream. Today, we are going to be delving in detail into the Rayshard Brooks shooting. If you don't know what this is, stay tuned. We're going to watch a compilation of all the video. We're going to look at all of the evidence that has been put out there, and I'm going to give you my assessment. I'm going to give you my opinion on what happened, if it was justified, if it was what I would have done, because those are two different things. It may have been justified, and it may have been what I would have done. It may have been justified, but may not have been what I would have done. It may not be justified, but we're going to get in that today. We're going to watch all the videos, and I'm going to talk about them. Without further ado, let's get into it. This is the Rayshard Brooks shooting. We have body camera footage and security cam footage and cell phone footage from bystanders. So I just looked up a compilation, a Rayshard Brooks video compilation. And I'm going to go ahead and leave a link in the description so that you can watch it as well. And I'm going to go through it for the first time, seeing all of the angles, and just kind of give you an ex-cop's perspective of what happened, if it was justified, what went wrong, and how I would have responded. And rest in peace, Rayshard Brooks. Nobody wants to shoot anybody. I mean, I've literally begged somebody to stop because I didn't want to shoot them. And that happens all the time, every day. Cops do not want to shoot people. On a human level, they don't want to hurt people. The people that I know as police officers don't want to hurt anybody. But even on a practical level, your life is just turned upside down. Your family's life gets turned upside down. So, I mean, on multiple levels, cops don't want to shoot people. So, let's see what happened here. All right, so it looks like right here we're at a Wendy's drive-thru. There are cars in line at the drive-thru waiting to get their food. But the line looks all disheveled, like it looks like some people are out of line. So you can see here, this is a pretty typical, this happens all the time, by the way, for those of you who don't know. I cannot tell you how many times people fall asleep at the wheel when they're drunk. It's a very, very reliable form of indicia. I have rolled up to people who were drunk at a red light that turned green, and who knows how long they had been there. I've seen people fall asleep in their cars on the freeway at a stop. It happens all the time. And it looks like all those cars were out of the way because they were trying to get around this vehicle. And what we know, the prior knowledge that I have of the case, is that police officers were sent to a Wendy's. I'm not sure who called, but most likely somebody from Wendy's called. And the truth is, when you fall asleep in your car on private property, which is what a Wendy's is, even though it's open to the public, it's private property. It's essentially the same thing as if somebody fell asleep in their car in your driveway. This is a perfectly legitimate reason for a police officer to be called somewhere. If someone pulled up in your driveway in their own car and you don't know them and they fell asleep in your driveway with the car running, that's what this is. So the call is completely justified. They show up to the scene because there was a nuisance complaint. Somebody sleeping in their car. I'm telling you, if you've been an officer for any time at all, you find somebody sleeping in their car while it's running, then it's pretty good indicia that they're driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. As an officer, that's probably what's going through his head already when he's responding to this car. All right. As you can see, he has been knocking on the door and he's not getting any response. So he opens the door.
Hey.
Still no response.
Come in. You good? You don't need a ambulance or anything like that? Or you just tired?
Apparently the officer's name is Bronson.
Alright, man. I'll move my car. Just pull somewhere and take it out. Alright.
Okay, as you can see, the gentleman behind the wheel, who I'm assuming is Brooks, is out of it. He's not responding very well. He's very slow. He's trying to figure out what's going on. He just woke up, and if any of us know what it's like to wake up, you're just disoriented, especially if you're under the influence and you're trying to figure out what's going on. So he pulls over into a parking stall at the request of the police officer, right in front of the cruiser.
I want to deal with this dude right now.
Okay, that's very telling. You heard the officer say, do I want to deal with this dude right now? Now listen, this could just be a general statement. This could be a general statement about, do I want to deal with this kind of case right now? I'm about to get off work, or, you know, it's so-and-so's promotion party, and I want to go get a piece of cake back at the station. Do I want to deal with this right now? Or could this be that he kind of knows that right now, with the climate of what's going on in the media, that he pulls up on a case that doesn't look great for him? Because I've done it. I've been there. It's already adding a level, another dimension to this traffic stop, which is what this is. This is a traffic stop. I will say this. In Honolulu, where I was a police officer for almost 7 years, we can't do traffic stops on private property. So I'm not sure how Georgia law works here. But in Honolulu, I have to observe or have evidence that you were driving drunk on city and county roadway. So the jurisdiction would be the roadway. That's what I'm charged to do. To find someone drunk in their car on private property, I wouldn't have enough in the Ninth Circuit, which is what Honolulu is a part of, to arrest somebody for driving under the influence. I have them driving under the influence, but they're on private property, which null and voids this thing for me. I don't know how it is in Atlanta. I don't know how much that plays a role, but let's see what happens next.
Hey, how much did I drink tonight? Not much? How much is not much?
All right, so the first thing happens is he asks him, how much are you drinking today? This is from the body cam from Brosnan. And the typical response is not much. And I will say that the majority of the time, people usually say one drink. I had one beer. I had one glass of wine. That's probably the most common of people that are arrested for DUI. Everyone that I've ever arrested for DUI or been involved on the scene of an arrest for DUI, they usually, the majority of the time, said one drink. This guy says not that much.
A lot of drink,
All right. Hey, give your license on you real quick. Yeah. All right.
All right, so the officer asks him for his license, which I get it. This is what's going on. If it's legal for him to stop him in a drive-through at a Wendy's, if Atlanta law allows for him to do a traffic stop on private property without having watched him drive or operate the vehicle on a public roadway, then this is a good stop.
Just relax the car. What are you, you here for a visit or what's,
I'm visiting.
where you visiting?
My mother's grave site.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
How long has she, passed for?
It's been probably about a year and a half now, but
Okay, I'm sorry to hear
my
that.
birthday's just passed, and my girlfriend's birthday just
Yeah.
passed. But I went to visit her, and
Yeah. All right.
All right, so Brooks is obviously going through some stuff. I don't know if any of the stuff that he just said was true. I know that I've probably heard it 100 times. Same stuff he's saying. So-and-so died, so-and-so died. And a lot of the times, that's true. And let's be honest, when people die and when you have bad things happen to you in life, some people drink. It's a very common way to deal with it. So he could be telling the truth. He could also be trying to garner some favor with the police officer, or at least some mercy, which is also very common. And quite honestly, a good tactic. Because you got to remember, these cops are people. It's not supposed to have an effect, but I think it can because they're human. So he's trying to garner some favor, some mercy with him, with the sob story, essentially. He knows that he's been drinking and he's driving at this point. You can hear how he's talking. He was sleeping at the wheel. And in my opinion, this dude was drinking and driving. Let's see if we get more evidence on that.
we decided to eat Burger King tonight, and hey, this happened.
Right, I hear you.
I say, babe, what's going on?
Right. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk to this officer here for a minute, and then we'll be good to go. Okay?
Oh, no problem.
All right. Thanks, sir.
All right, so right now, I like the interaction. Everyone's being courteous, everybody's been polite, and his beat partner rolls up for cover. This is a great opportunity for them to discuss what's going on and try to get to the bottom of this. It's also great for officer safety because these are highly dangerous situations. Traffic stops are incredibly dangerous situations for police officers. This is a solo beat officer, which means these officers ride around by themselves, no partner in the car. That's what it was in Honolulu. That's what I'm used to. So you'll get a traffic stop, you call up on the radio and give your location, and your beat partner or your cover officer, the guy who is assigned to watch you or be there for you, he's usually in the same sector, the same area, just a different beat. He'll roll through for cover. And a lot of times to help you with the case. If this is a DUI, there's a lot of paperwork. There's the SFST, the standard field sobriety test. And he's got a lot of things that he's got to do with his arrest and paperwork and all that good stuff. So oftentimes a cover officer will show up to help you so you can get this case done and get back out on the road, because time is money. The city's paying you and you got to be effective. And if you're off on a stop like this for too long, then you got crimes happening on the beat and you're not being able to address them. Your beat's falling apart. Especially at this time of night, if he's already drinking, I mean, stuff starts popping off right now. So beat partner shows up and he's getting ready to help him with whatever it is. It may be just to help him assess it and find out he didn't have any more indicia that this guy was drunk, and tells him to sleep it off and mind his own business and leave in the morning. It could be that, but it also could be him knowing that he's got to help with a case. So let's go.
All right, stay in the car. Stay right there. Hey, what's going on? So, found him passed out in the parking lot. He's sitting here.
So he was in the drive?
Yeah, he's on, car's on. Took me like 2 minutes to wake him up. Kept knocking, opened the door, like, shook him. Woke up super groggy. Got pretty good smell of alcoholic beverage coming out of the car. Eyes are watery, glassy.
Okay, I don't know if this guy's a supervisor or not, but basically this officer is apprising the other officer of the indicia. He's apprising the other officer of the facts and the circumstances of the case, what we call the elements. He is just named several things that you need in a DUI case. He had the strong smell of alcoholic beverage. He had glassy and watery eyes. He's groggy. He was sleeping in the driver's seat with the car on. These are things he's telling him so the other officer knows these are all indicia of DUI.
He wasn't sure where he was. And he's telling me he had one drink, he said earlier.
Tell me, I wasn't here, so can you tell me what happened?
All right, so he said he told him he had one drink. This video says for more than 20 minutes, Rolf interviewed Brooks and conducts a field sobriety test. Let's see what happens.
What we got here?
So this is the standardized field sobriety test, the SFST. He's having him walk the line. He had him focus on his finger.
Go home. I have my daughters there right now. My daughter's birthday was yesterday.
Hold on, Mr. Brooks. Will you take a preliminary breath test for me? It's yes or no.
I don't want to refuse anything.
It's yes or no. It's completely up to you.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Just wait.
Okay, the officer eventually gets to the point where he asks for him to take the breath test. Basically, this is how this works, because standardized field sobriety tests are basically the same everywhere. He first gave him the SFST. He wants him to take a breathalyzer test. He is having him take a breathalyzer test to help confirm that the guy was driving under the influence. But for him to ask if he should take the breathalyzer test, he needs indicia, and he needs certain indicators that tell him that the guy is driving drunk. So that's what the standardized field sobriety test was for. He had him do that first. That led to the breathalyzer exam. If he takes the breathalyzer and fails the breathalyzer, he will then arrest him for DUI, where the guy will probably go back to the station and blow in the actual breathalyzer machine, which is like an official machine that's big. It's way more accurate. The breathalyzer isn't as accurate, but it's accurate enough to you can use it as probable cause.
What kind of drinks did you have?
I'm not sure. It's something she ordered. She said top shelf or whatever.
Top shelf what?
I'm not sure. It was, like I said, it was her birthday, and
You had about 1.5 drinks, but you don't remember what kind of drinks they were.
no sir.
All right.
I really don't, Mr. Ross.
All right. I think you've had too much to drink to be driving.
Okay, so this is the point of no return. He blew in the breathalyzer. The breathalyzer was over the limit. The officer already knew he was going to arrest him at that moment. But there's this weird point. There's this weird zone that I've talked about in other videos. It's the danger zone. the time between when you know you're going to arrest him and when you're going to place him under arrest. Some people are different than others. Some people, and you can tell this by talking to them, and it's something you develop as a police officer over time is verbal judo skills, we call them, but it's basically communication and being able to read people. You can tell certain people are better off if you tell them you're going to arrest them and give them some time to process it. But then there are some people who, the moment you tell them you're going to arrest them, that they're going to react right away. And I've experienced a lot of different types of people. This officer just got right to it. I don't know if the video was edited or whatever, but in this case, he said, well, I think you've had too much to drink tonight. And he took a step forward and put out his hand. He's going to grab the wrist, and based on the training of his control and arrest tactics with his department, he's going to place this guy under arrest. And this is the danger zone. Before those cuffs get clicked, between the time you told them you're being arrested and the time you click those handcuffs, that's the danger zone. Because that's usually the point at which somebody says, I'm not going back to jail. Or the nerves kick in and they start processing things like he's got a kid at home, he wants to see his kid, or a lot of times maybe they got drugs in their pockets, and the moment they realize they're getting arrested and those drugs are going to get found, or they're going to catch another charge, or maybe they're on probation and they know that their probation officer is going to be notified. These are all things that run through somebody's mind when they're being arrested. So this is the danger zone. But there's two officers on scene, and they are, based on the body camera footage, they're in a tactical L formation. The tactical L is when you can see that one person is facing them head on, the other officer's off to his side a little bit, offset. They do that on purpose because it splits the attention of the suspect. He has to actually turn his head to look at both officers. It's hard to see both officers within your peripheral. That's kind of the idea, because you need him to be able to look both ways. In case he resists or he struggles or he tries to get away, there's two of them to worry about, and it splits his attention. That's called the tactical L. At this point, he turns around, or he tries to walk behind the individual. Personally, I would have told him to turn around. I like to see the cooperation. I like to see, is this guy willing to turn around for me and put his hands behind his back? That's just a personal preference. But some people, you don't go there with them. You can tell, you get the vibe that they're not going to want to listen. And he probably got that vibe. Based on the conversation, which said was 20 minutes. I mean, he could have been talking all this stuff. You never really know. But for whatever reason, this officer decides to place him under arrest. He's got the indicia that he needs. He's committed to hooking him up. He tells him, I'm going to be placing you under arrest, and walks to the rear of the suspect. And you see him reach out his hand right there.
Put your hands behind your back for me. Put your hands behind your back.
Okay. The guy's not putting his hands behind his back. He's just putting his hands to his side. And I saw the officer right there try to bring in that left hand, and he met with some resistance. I know it seems like something small, but the officer, who's probably done this a lot, felt that resistance, and that's a red flag already. So he's ready for this. The officer is trying to get those cuffs on as fast as he can so that he doesn't have any problems. And there it is. That's the move. You'll notice that the other officer was already approaching and putting his hands on Brooks. So in my experience, that other officer had the vibes as well. He could feel how this was going. He could not completely trust this guy. And he walked to the side. He could feel that something was going to happen. And thank God he was there, because this guy did resist. And it goes from 0 to 60 real fast, which is, I don't want to say surprising, but I think for the public and for the community to see, this is something that I wish people would see more of. Because I think people think that it doesn't go like that, but it does. People will turn on you real fast, and they usually wait for this moment, because if they've cooperated this whole time but they're deciding they're going to run, they wait for that moment you're not expecting. It's surprise. Surprise gives them the advantage. All right, so they're struggling. They hit the ground. Both officers go down. Okay, well now, at this point, he's actively resisting. I don't see any aggressive movements towards the police officers. We're past the point of passive resistance. This guy is actively resisting. He's pulling away. He's wrestling. He's on the ground. He's spinning. He's trying to conceal his hands. He's trying to roll around, essentially trying to get up and get away. So at this point, I don't see him actually using aggression towards the officer so much as I see him resisting. And I see the other officer unholster his taser. And now he puts that taser on the leg of Brooks. That's to do what we call a drive stun, where he's going to tase the individual without deploying the barbs, or at least without spreading the barbs. So he's actually going to tase him, but it's going to be a small spread. So the prongs on the taser are probably an inch, maybe inch and a half from each other. And when you drive someone like that at close range, that's just the range that you get. And essentially, you're only tasing that area, that muscle. The wider the spread on the taser, the more things that are between the two prongs, the more gets tased. And taser, the last time I checked, was 50,000 volts. 50,000 volts is dangerous. That's why the taser is called a less than lethal option. A taser is not non-lethal. That is a myth. Taser is less than lethal. It is very safe, but you can't call something non-lethal when it completely incapacitates somebody. I've been tased. I'll release the video of my taser when I got tased in police academy. But I've been tased, and it's the worst feeling I've ever felt in my entire life. You feel like you're going to die. And I did a 5-second ride. Most of the tasers are 5-second rides, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. It's a horrible feeling. But I got the widespread in the back, so everything in my back muscles. It gets your whole body at that point, but I did not do a drive stun. So I don't know what the drive stun feels like. But it is called less than lethal because if you tase someone while they're running and they fall and hit their head and they're dead, that wasn't less than lethal. You know what I mean? Now that's lethal. So that's why the taser is a less than lethal option. But he pulls it out because it's very safe. He's wrestling with the cop. He can't fall and hurt himself. It's literally going to be pain compliance. It's going to incapacitate the muscles, and the guy is not going to want that feeling again, and he's going to listen. That's the theory about the taser, because it's that painful. So we're talking pain compliance here. Okay, he keeps telling him you're going to get tased. He's giving him the warning. You have one officer who's got his back, and you have an officer in the front, but his arms are still free. They've yet to get his arms under control, which has been the problem thus far. So he reaches out for the taser. At this point, the officer should have tased him already. I would have already tased the guy. He's had warnings. He's still resisting. He gets tased. If you light him up with a taser, then he understands, well, this is serious. I better put my hands behind my back because I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to escalate this anymore. Okay, at this point, he's got his hand on the taser. This is a very touchy fulcrum point here. He's yet to throw any punches at any officers. So I don't see any active aggression. But he did grab the officer's taser. At this point, what I've seen is a defensive grab. He grabbed the taser so that he wouldn't get tased. But the moment he grabs the taser, now the officer has to think about the taser, which adds another degree, another element to the seriousness of what's happening. As soon as you hear your officer say, he's got my taser, or drop the taser, you know that this guy has a weapon. You're in close quarters, you have a gun on your hip. This guy's actively resisting you. He's grabbed the taser. He's already showed his willingness to grab the taser. These are all red flags. These are not in and of themselves enough to shoot somebody. And no one wants to shoot somebody, like I said. But we are getting there very quickly. I can only imagine what the officer who is holding the taser is feeling right now, because the taser is in the guy's hand. And I can only imagine what the other officer who's hearing him say that he's got the taser is thinking. Because you got to make a decision real fast. If I look down and I see that man has a taser and he's pointing it at me like that, I would shoot him. The reason why is if he incapacitates me with that taser, he can then grab my gun and shoot me. That's the truth. Remember, it's less than lethal. It's not non-lethal. This is a less than lethal weapon. But in the use of force continuum that I worked under, and I know that they're different from department to department based on experience, typically you're allowed one up. It's a common phrase that we use, is you can one up on the use of force continuum. So you don't have to match the use of force with the same level of use of force, because we're already reactionary as police officers. If you're already reactionary, then you can only draw your weapon if they have a gun. Well, you're dead already. It takes seconds to actually draw your gun and aim and shoot. If they have those seconds on you, you're dead. It's just the model doesn't work. It doesn't work to just be able to match use of force with use of force. So you're allowed to one up the use of force. That's why if someone's holding a knife, you can hold a gun. If someone's holding a taser, you can draw your gun. If someone's holding a stick, you can draw your gun. They can kill you with something. They can also just hurt you with it, but they can kill you. So I know there's a lot going through the officer's mind right now. No doubt Brooks too. There's a lot going through Brooks' mind. I don't know at this point if he's committed to pointing a taser or hurting an officer. At this point, it looks like he's just resisting. So let's see what happens. Okay. Wow. Okay. So at this point, he's actively gotten away from these officers. And up until this very moment, he was just flailing, which is a danger to the officers to get hurt or assaulted. But I haven't seen the active aggression yet. And I think I just paused this on the frame where it looks like he's striking the officer. You have both officers on the ground. There's a taser involved. I'm not sure if he's lost it yet. Oh, so if you can see that bright yellow thing in Brooks' hand, that is the taser. So now you have an officer is missing a taser. Okay, they just switched scenes to like the security camera. All right, now you see the officer in pursuit. Brooks running away. The officer has his taser out, and I'm hearing the zapping, the tick, 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 tick. But it doesn't sound like it's making a connection. A taser is very loud when it's not making the connection. It's muffled when it actually makes the connection because it's actually going through tissue. But when you hear that loud tack, 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 that's usually not made contact. It's not being effective, which is no doubt why Brooks is running. I've never seen anyone be able to run while being tased. I've seen someone walk through it, but he was like superhuman, that guy. So I don't think he's made connection yet. And he's running. He's got the actual taser deployed, it sounds like. I don't know who's got the taser deployed yet. It might be the officer, it may be Brooks, but I'm hearing the actual sound. And he's in pursuit right now, pointing the taser at Brooks. Oh. Okay, it looks like from here, Brooks, as he was running, turned and with his right hand extended, aimed the taser at the officer and fired it. Let me rewind that. Yep, you can actually see the spark of the taser. So he fired the taser at the officer. At this point, this is aggravated active aggression. That's what we call that. He is using aggravated aggression on this officer. It is amplified. He's using a weapon, and he tried to shoot the officer, albeit while running away. But he tried to harm this officer with a less than lethal weapon. At this point, this officer is justified in shooting him. He hasn't yet, I've noticed. Had he done it up until now, it's justified. So let's see what happens. Ooh. Okay. That sounded like a gun. And I saw Brooks drop behind that sedan. It looks like a hatchback. And they're looking at him. So I'm assuming he got shot and he hit the ground. Okay, they're telling him to put his hands behind his back, which is what you're supposed to do. A lot of times when you shoot somebody, they're still coherent and they're still able to listen to you, and they're still a threat even after you've shot them. It has happened all too many times where an officer was mortally wounded or injured after someone had already been taken down. All right, so those are the two officers apparently, Brosnan and Rolfe, still on scene. The notes here say the paramedics rushed to save Brooks.
Hit you with it? I felt it, but I don't.
All right, somebody said, one of the officers who's there said, did he hit you with it? And he said, I felt it, but I don't see anything. That's because if you've ever seen what happens with a taser, the two things on the end of a taser are essentially fish hooks that have never been curved. So if you've ever seen a fish hook, it's already been curved by a machine. If you straighten that fish hook, so it's a fish hook that was not yet processed into a fish hook, it's just a straight barb with the same barb on the end of it. But attached to those barbs are little tiny wires, and they're super thin. And those things are live. So if I shot a taser into somebody and you walked into those wires, which can be 25 feet long, then it will shock you if you touch both. If you touch both of them, it will complete the circuit and you will be shocked. So he felt something. I'm assuming he felt those wires.
If you're willing and able, I don't need anything specific at this juncture because I know you're still evaluating it. Just give me the pure basics of how it got it.
Okay. I'm assuming that this is his supervisor because he's apprising him of the information in the case. It said here that he gave his first statement. That's because this gets tricky at this point, because now there's a guy who's been shot by a police officer, so investigation is going to happen. His whole life and his whole career is going to be flipped upside down. He's going to be investigated. In Honolulu, they take your gun away and they have to investigate it. So they're going to take it and do forensic evidence collection on the gun. They're going to want to match up the ballistics on the weapon with the bullets so that everything is accounted for. This is a serious investigation, essentially a homicide investigation. You'll notice that when someone dies from a police officer shooting, it will say the cause of death is a homicide. Homicide is a loaded word. People think that a homicide means that you killed somebody wrongfully, but that's not what it means at all. A homicide is when somebody dies at the hands of another person. It has nothing to do with whether it's justified or not. If someone's going to kill your baby and you step in and save them and kill that person, that's still a homicide. But whether it's justifiable or not is what the investigation will hold. So he's going to be investigated. So this guy is asking him and being careful because he has rights. The officer has rights just like the public has rights. And so asking him to make a statement that could incriminate him is a violation of the Fifth Amendment. So he's asking him if he feels comfortable to write a statement for the highlights, which in Honolulu we call them highlights, but it's so that they can apprise command and the news of what happened. It's also so that he can apprise the detectives who will then investigate. But if you're the shooter, you are the suspect. So this officer is a suspect right now. So he has to be careful what he says, because if he screws up and says something, then the detectives will, that will be a red flag for the detectives. He will be investigated by internal affairs typically, It will not be other officers that he knows per se or works with on the beat. It's not like a normal detective will come in and look at this. Usually it's the homicide will be involved, but on the investigation side, it will usually be internal affairs, which we called PSO in Honolulu. It stands for Professional Standards Office. And that will usually be who investigates it. Usually everyone's afraid of those guys because they have a job to do, and their job is to investigate things without regard for if you're a police officer or not. So that's a good thing. It's checks and balances right there to make sure there's no corrupt cops. That's what internal affairs is for.
I was called to do a DUI investigation. Okay, so there's only 3 officers on the inside. Yeah. Developed probable cause to arrest the suspect for DUI. He resisted arrest and he gained control of the other officer's taser and started running. As I pursued him, he turned and started firing the taser at me. Okay.
Okay, that was a pretty clean appraisal. He said the facts and the elements that he needed to say so that this case could be classified, and so that that detective or supervisor could make appropriate appraisals without saying more than he had to, which I think is smart in this case. That's what he was asking for. That's what he needed to know.
Yeah. Still got the adrenaline pumping.
You all right?
No, I'm okay.
All right, good.
He's saying
Good.
he's saying he's still got the adrenaline pumping. That's because if you've ever had to draw your weapon on somebody, the adrenaline is like redlining. In some cases, I've talked about this before, people go code black. Sometimes that adrenaline rush is so heavy that you don't know what to do and you shut down afterwards. And there's a dump coming very quickly after that adrenaline rush. And the dump is horrible. You're just exhausted. You're unmotivated to do anything. You don't want to talk anymore. You're irritable. He was drinking water. He was still up and moving around. So this adrenaline is still pumping on him. So he hasn't hit that adrenaline dump yet. I mean, he just had to fire his weapon on somebody and potentially kill them. That's a life-changing event for anybody. It's super stressful. It plays games on you psychologically and can do some really harmful things. So he's going through a lot right now.
All right, we're going to take care of you, brother. I'm just glad you all right. That's my biggest concern.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, good. You talk to your wife, you talk to your family, everybody?
No, I hadn't called anybody other than the IDPO.
Okay. All right, hopefully we'll get this cleared up. Anything you need from me?
Any update on Mr. Brooks?
I don't know what the IBPO is. I'm assuming it's like International Brotherhood of Police Officers. It's probably like his union, which is something that they do so that they can be represented during the investigation. So I'm not sure if that's what it is, but if that's what it is, which is what it sounds like, he understands that now his life is going to be torn apart and investigated. And so he's asking for, he already called for representation.
I ain't checked yet.
Okay.
We'll get that squared away, all right?
All right.
But you're good.
Okay, so that guy, whoever that was, sounded like a supervisor. He said, we're going to take care of you. Everything's going to be okay. All my conspiracy theorists are going to say he's going to take care of him because he did something wrong and it's going to be a cover-up. That's not how this works. That man that just walked away, if he's his supervisor, he has his own liability here. That's how this works. Unfortunately, that supervisor is also going to face tons of scrutiny. He's going to have to answer for this. And I'm assuming he had saw the video, he saw what happened, and he probably thinks this is justified. But he's going to let the investigation play out. All right, this is apparently the attorney for Brooks. And he's giving some type of a press conference. Let's see what he has to say.
They didn't do a sobriety test. There was no count to 100 or whatever it is and walk this line. They said that they were just talking.
Okay. We obviously know that's false. I don't know who this guy is. But I'm not mad at him. He's an attorney for the family. That's his job, is to do this. And he can say that later on he can say, well, the witnesses said that didn't happen. So technically he's not lying. So I don't want to call the man a liar. But we know that he's wrong right now. We saw the standardized field sobriety test. And they weren't just talking. They were also talking.
And it seemed to be a decent
Correct.
And then all of a sudden, one of the officers grabbed him and told him he's under arrest.
Okay. Yes. Also true. All of a sudden, one of the officers grabbed him and told he was under arrest. Police officers are allowed to do that. I hate to tell anybody this, but police officers are charged with the duty of arresting criminals. They don't pass the laws, they enforce them. If this was a law that was violated, the officer has to arrest. He shall arrest when a crime has been committed. He had probable cause, and he tried to arrest him. That's what he's paid to do. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. And mind you, not a lot of people want to do it because it's thankless and it doesn't pay that well, and it's very dangerous. This guy decided he was going to do it. He made that tough decision to hook this guy up. He told him, "You're under arrest," reached for his hand, and that's when everything went bad.
So this started from nothing. It wasn't.
This didn't start from nothing. I will say the only weakness in here is I don't know the laws in Atlanta, but he was on private property. So I don't see how that's enforceable. Because I'm pretty sure you can drive your vehicle drunk on your property all you want. Let's say you got 100 acres of like dirt hills and stuff in your yard. You can be drunk driving that on your property all you want. You know what I mean? You have to allow police officers on your property. But where this gets foggy is that Wendy's called the officer and said someone's sleeping in the drive-thru. And you saw he was in the drive-thru and cars were on an angle off of the drive-thru trying to squeeze in. So that's the gray area that I can't speak to about that. But if that's legal to arrest someone for DUI on private property, then we're good to go on this case.
Bank robbery in progress or anything violent. They just told him he was under arrest, and now.
Okay. So this right here is misrepresenting what happened. It wasn't nonviolent. Sure, initially it was a DUI stop. But when he told him he was under arrest for a nonviolent crime, then he got violent. So that's the truth about this case. This was violent. This guy's wrong here.
That they're reporting, it was a suspected DUI or he fell asleep blocking the line. He wasn't blocking the line.
He was blocking the line. We saw it with the video. I will give this guy the benefit of the doubt. He hadn't seen this yet, I'm assuming, because it's body camera, right? So it's in the police officer's custody. So I'll give him that much.
And they didn't even do a sobriety test from what the witnesses right there said. So why was he even under arrest?
I can't blame nothing on her. It was my decision. I said, hey, if she can't get her order together, and I'm not feeling uptight.
Okay, I will say this: he seems likable. Like, he's not blaming anybody. He's over the sob story. He gave that sob story earlier, but he realized they didn't go away. So at this point, he's dealing with it in his head. He's dealing with what's about to happen. And he's trying to talk to the officers man to man and not have this go this way. He's likable. And that sucks because that's when you see somebody's humanity. And cops are human. And a lot of times, especially in cases like this where you have evidence that he's been drinking and driving, and you shall arrest, meaning you have to, that's your job. You can actually get in trouble for not doing it, especially if he leaves here and goes and crashes and hurts somebody else. So this is a tough moment for this cop that he's got to arrest this guy I'm sure he thinks is likable. Because I think he's likable. Up until this point.
Now, I should park right here. Go to sleep. I'm not feeling,
But I do notice that he's slurring his words. And he's speaking very slowly. He's taking a long time to process the thoughts. I'm sure he's nervous. But these are all indicia of him being drunk.
I'm just not feeling right.
What do you mean you're not feeling right?
she, like I
Do you
said,
think maybe that you had too much to drink and you realized that you shouldn't drive, so you parked?
I mean,
Would that be accurate to say?
yes, sir. Mr. Ross, yes.
All right, so your girlfriend dropped you off, you got in the car,
I
you backed
pulled
out,
up
you
and
pulled
called
up,
her.
and you're like, damn, I'm too drunk to drive. And so you pull back into the parking spot.
I
Right?
called her like, babe.
Oh, is that accurate?
It's a couple moments I got on the phone with her.
Yeah.
I'm like, babe, hey, damn, you want number one or number two or?
But
she's like,
would
babe,
you agree?
You take care of that. You're a man. You figure out what we're gonna eat tonight.
All right, let's move past that. Would you agree that you've had too much to drink to drive?
I mean, I can focus, Mr. Ross. I can focus.
Would you?
All right, I will say this. I feel like right here the officer's getting into deeper waters than he needs to. He's made his mind up that he's going to arrest this guy. To ask him, would you say that you had too much to drink? I think that crossed the line a little bit. Is that fair to say you had too much to drink? That I'm too drunk to drive, so I pulled over in the parking spot. I don't know what he's doing here. That doesn't make any sense. Sometimes it's an officer trying to deal with the fact that he's got to arrest this guy. You know how some people talk when they're nervous or talk when they're about to make a decision? Well, cops do it too. And right now it seems like he's getting to that point. He's stalling for some reason. The nerves are taking over. I know what that feeling's like. I've stalled before because I wasn't ready to do that arrest. I wasn't ready to fight the guy yet. I needed to get in my head a little bit. And I knew this was going to happen. So I don't know why he's doing this. It seems like he's getting into deeper waters than he has to. And I think that this can come back to hurt him. This seems irresponsible. But up until now, this is the only thing that I've seen. Right at this point, I think that he's getting close to violating this guy's rights with his questions. Because he's already a suspect. How the law works is, once you're identified as a suspect, you cannot ask certain questions that incriminate somebody. And you especially can't use them in the case for a probable cause. Because if a case is built off of those questions and those get thrown out of court, then you lose everything.
Agree that you had too much to drink to drive.
I haven't had, to the point where I can't focus.
Okay.
I was a little tired ahead of the day because we just came from North
Do
Carolina.
you think that you're safe to operate a vehicle right now?
Absolutely, Mr. Ross.
And how much have you had to drink?
I had 1.5 margaritas, Mr. Ross.
1.5 margaritas.
Yes, sir.
Margaritas.
Yes.
Have you had anything else today? Any other type of drink?
No, sir.
You haven't had any daiquiris?
I haven't had no daiquiri. I had 1.5 little small cups of margarita, but I'm up now. Y'all got me up with this.
Got you up.
I'm up now.
Hey, will you take a preliminary breath test for me?
What's that?
It's a little handheld machine. I have you blow into it, and then lets me know.
All right, so like I said, he's already got the evidence he needs. So he wants to add to that evidence with the preliminary breath test. He calls it a preliminary breath test, and something everybody should know is this is a field breath test where he takes out this breathalyzer. It's a portable breathalyzer that he has him blow into. It will add to the probable cause for arrest. But he still has to blow when he gets back to the station or take a blood test for the alcohol level. So it's preliminary because the whole case can't be stacked on this. A lot of times what happens is if you blow high enough on the breath test, they know that they can get you back to the station and you'll still blow. So if you blow at 0.20, they know you got plenty of alcohol in your system. You're going to get back to the station, you're going to blow again. It's going to show you that's the one that counts. It's the breathalyzer machine. And they keep it at the station or the jail or whatever. And that's what they'll use because that gets calibrated and checked and it's very reliable. Whereas this preliminary one is not as reliable, but it can help to add to the indicia, the probable cause. That's what he's asking this for.
Positive or negative for the presence of alcohol in your breath?
I've been drinking. Okay. I do say that.
Okay.
But I'm only going a few minutes down the road.
I got you. I'm just asking, will you take a preliminary breath test for me?
I mean, I don't know what it is.
I just said it's a little handheld machine. Lets me know if it's positive or negative for the presence of alcohol. It's part of my investigation.
You know it is the presence.
I
I've been
know.
drinking.
I know. I can tell. It's just part of my investigation.
But like I said,
He's right. This is just part of the investigation. He can tell he's been drinking, but this adds to it. It's just further evidence compounding the fact that this guy is under the influence. And it's going to be used against him in court.
I have to park this car right here, right now. And
Hold on,
walk.
it's just a yes or no. We don't need to go back and forth about it. It's just a yes or no.
But what if I take this test and I don't care about. I can walk home. I don't have to. Why
would you walk home?
I just don't want to be in violation of anybody. I can walk. My sister's house is right here.
Do you think that you'd be in violation of something if you were to drive your vehicle?
See, at this point, I feel like he's pushing it. The officers, at this point, it's too many questions. He's already determined that he wants to give him a breathalyzer. At this point, I don't know why he's going back and forth with this guy.
If that's less possible for me to park here, lock the car up, and do everything that I need to do within the presence of you guys, I can just go home. I have my daughters there right now. My daughter's birthday is yesterday.
Hold on, Miss Brooks. Will you take a preliminary breath test for me? It's yes or no.
I don't want to refuse anything.
It's yes or no. It's completely up to you.
Yes, I will.
Okay. Just wait here while I go.
Oh, man.
So, trying to make sure, man, you're safe to drive. That's all.
I know, man.
You scared me a little bit because you were sleeping. So that's why I was making sure you're okay. And that's.
I know.
All right, so like I said earlier, it was the other officer that came up and approached him initially. He's called the initial officer. This officer is the secondary officer that comes to help him with the investigation. It's very typical that a second officer will show up and do the SFST while the initial officer does the initial report. So that second officer will submit a follow-up report to that initial report stating the things that he observed and the indicia that he received so that he could take part in this investigation. And usually not everybody is certified to do certain things. This guy's obviously certified to do this breathalyzer test. He had to take classes, get certified. He has a certificate. He had so many hours of training, and he's going to do it. He's probably an expert at this. He does it all the time. He can go to court and testify adequately.
All right, just take a deep breath in. Put your mouth over the mouthpiece. Go as hard as you can until I tell you to stop. Blah, 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 blah. Stop. Very good.
I just had a few drinks. That's it.
How many?
1.5. Like I said, I was into the second cup. I wasn't even. I told her, babe, let's go because I'm hungry.
What kind of drinks did you have?
I'm not sure. It's something she ordered. She said top shelf or whatever.
Top shelf what?
I'm not sure. It was, like I said, it was her birthday.
See, for me, I don't know what the cop's doing here. He's just getting himself in trouble. At this point, he's asking too many questions. I wouldn't have done that. He just blew in the breathalyzer. What do you need? You don't need any more at this point.
And it was my daughter's birthday.
Let the record show, I think he's got enough already. This officer has already determined that he's going to put this guy in handcuffs. So he's either talking to him to loosen him up, to build some rapport with him before he places him under arrest. But at this point, he's ready to go. He should just hook him up.
Intent to, have a good time. And I said, babe, I'm hungry. Let's go. My baby's mom, she was there. I said, babe, go ahead. Cool. Here's the money for the blow-up bed tomorrow. Here's the money for, to enjoy herself tomorrow. Just, a burger or something. Just take me home. I'm ready to go.
So you had about 1.5 drinks, but you don't remember what kind of drinks it was?
No, sir.
All right.
I really don't.
All right. I think you've had too much to drink to be driving.
All right, so he grabbed that hand, which is typical. The other officer grabs the other hand. I'm assuming he's grabbing the hand. I can't see that. He's at least standing by to help because this is that point where things could go bad, and we know now that they do. So you can see there that the officer did have the other hand. So one officer grabbed one hand, the other officer grabbed the other. This is the body camera footage. All right. Got my effing taser. So. That was it. So now that we've seen it and now I've heard it, you could hear that Brooks deployed the taser. Then you heard those shots. I believe it was 3 shots. All right, here's the close-up footage. Officer's gonna deploy the taser. Brooks grabs it, got a strong grip on it, pulls it away, and flips on top of the officer, which is difficult to do, especially with another guy on top of you. He stands up. He's the only one standing up.
Damn. Fuck. Oh.
Whoa.
Hey, bro, we got kids.
Shot him. I saw y'all talking to him for 20 minutes, dude. Unarmed, non-violent, nothing wrong with how he conducted himself whatsoever.
Oh, please.
Wow. Wow. Both of your careers are definitely done because you just shot a man for no reason. This pig and these two.
Wow. Okay. All right, folks. Well, it is my assessment. Who am I? But in my humble opinion, based on my training and experience, I didn't see anything that those officers did wrong. I don't think that it was morally wrong what they did. They were acting under the color of law. They were in charge of arresting this man. They went to do so. It turned violent. The man escalated, not the police officers. The police officers peacefully tried to arrest him. The man started that active resistance, and it turned into active aggression and eventually aggravated active aggression. And those officers responded in kind. They never drew their weapon until a weapon was drawn at them. So it's my opinion that this was justified. To the question of what would I have done, I would like to think I would have gotten him in cuffs before he would have pulled away. I would like to think that he never would have got away from me with the taser. But hindsight is 20/20. Having seen what happened, I might not have been in that same mind frame during that time. So I believe this one was justified. Mr. Brooks was in the wrong here. He elevated this situation and it cost him his life. And it's sad. It's sad because he didn't have to die. And he chose the wrong path there, if you ask me. The officers did what they were supposed to do. It's a tough job and they had to do it. I don't know anything else further than what we just watched. I have heard rumors that the police chief has resigned. I guess it was a female police chief, and that she resigned. And that the mayor and maybe the police chief as well had said that they thought it was inappropriate use of force. I disagree. And that officer has been fired, and the other officer was placed on admin leave. So it's unfortunate. And apparently that Wendy's was burned down, which is sad. So I hope no one else was hurt. But that's my assessment, guys. Love it or hate it. That's my assessment. And for what it's worth, the officers did what they were supposed to do. But it is still sad that a man lost his life. And it hurts to hear that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I welcome good and bad comments. Like you saw in my last video, I'm dealing with the bad comments. I'm learning how to deal with those. There's a lot of trolls out there, but there's a lot of people too that just disagree. They want to make points. And I'll go back and forth with you. And I'll keep an open mind. I'm not married to an ideology. So I like to talk about these things and discuss them so I can learn and grow. So if you have a comment, whether you agree or disagree, tell me why. Let me know in the comment section. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Ring that notification bell so you know when more videos are coming out. And I'll try to keep you updated on this case and the George Floyd case as well. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching this video. The support has been amazing, and until the next time.